This is one of those, and we're happy to help him with that. So he's got to present this, he's got to record it, and send it down there so he can get a grade on it. So y'all listen, all right?
I think that's the way we ought to start out with you.
Yeah.
I am.
All right. Today we're going to go over a topic that everyone in the entire world is familiar with, a topic near and dear to many, but misconceived by many. Today we're going to talk about love, why it's so important in the ministry of the Lord, and how most people don't really understand what love is. In particular, I'll be talking about agape love. We'll get to the specifics of that in a moment. You may ask yourself, how can someone not understand what love is? It's such a simple concept, but is it really? Is one of the key ingredients to Christianity as easy to understand as most think, or is it much more complex than we've come to understand it today? Let's look first into the Merriam-Webster's definition of love. In this dictionary, love is described as strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. The example given is maternal love for a child. The second definition given is attraction based on sexual desire, affection, and tenderness felt by lovers. So here we come to a point of interest. Is love as simple as being attracted to someone because of your sexual desire towards that person? Sounds more like lust to me. The first definition was close to how one might define love if you could put it into words. It feels more like a description than a definition, however. We know we love those who are related to us and are friends, or rather are true friends to us. That idea is pretty straightforward. But does love stop there, or is love something deeper than just a feeling we display towards those we like and respect? We know love is an important concept. 1 Corinthians 13:13 reads, "And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love." To put it into words in any sort of format that could truly come close to describing love, we must look to 1 Corinthians 13:4-7. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. I don't like admitting things like this very often, but there hasn't been many other passages in the Bible that have made me cry as much as this one has. These few verses fill my mind with so many ideas. Even though it's so terribly difficult to put the idea of love into words, here it has been. I see many things when I read these verses. I see God looking down at a world soaked in sin, hurt from all our trespasses against him. I see a God who sent his only Son for a world that hated him so that his Son could die for the world. I see the Son not putting up a struggle, but willingly coming into the world to die for those who hate him and his Father. I see that Son concerned for the sake of everyone he meets, those who love him also and those who don't. And why should it be any other way? Romans 13:10 says, "Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law." Referring back to what 1 Corinthians 13:13 said, that through faith, hope, and love, love is the greatest. We can see how love fulfills the other two. Love rejoices in truth and always hopes. We see this idea talked about again in Colossians 3, verse 14. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. This is why love is so important, why our understanding of love is so important. These days, people pass it off as something so much less than it truly is. People even go as far as making the words love and sex interchangeable, and that's just terrible. There are many topics that sort of get me emotional, and I tend to get attached to things that I care about. This is one such topic. The reason I find it deeply disturbing that people interchange the words is because God himself is love. Generally, the idea that's being talked about in this case is anything but holy. Love is a word tossed about so casually now that it's really lost its meaning for most. I mean, you could run around saying, "I love hot sauce," and people would think it was completely normal. Well, not completely normal, but you get the idea. To expand on the idea that God is love, we'll find ourselves reading from 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 through 8. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. What many people don't know is the fact that there are different kinds of love. The particular type of love we are looking at today is agape love, as I mentioned earlier. Agape love is sort of like an ultimate form of love, a love that surpasses all other forms of love. Quoting from a Christian blog on Pathos.com, agape love is not like a brotherly love or a love between a husband and a wife. It is the most self-sacrificing love that there is. This type of love is the love that God has for his own children. This type of love is what was displayed on the cross by Jesus Christ. On that note, I feel I should quote the passage that exemplifies this idea most. I'm sure you all know it well. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. What a powerful message. We could walk out of this room with only reading that passage and have a wealth of knowledge already swarming about in our heads. The amount of sermons that have stemmed off of that one passage is enormous, as it should be. God showed his love to a lost and dying world, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because more than anything else, he loved us. Despite everything we've done, despite everything we still do to this very day, he still loves us. That right there, for me, leaves me dumbfounded. Many of you here know I went through a rough patch in high school. I saw the world as a hopeless piece of nothing. I looked around and all my mind perceived was emptiness. I hated with a passion that no one should ever have for such a thing. I wanted nothing more than to see the world be consumed in fire, because that's all I saw it being worth. I saw people throwing their lives away for selfish gain. I saw people stealing from the poor so they could go to the store and give to the rich. I saw a man raising his fist to fellow man over petty disagreements neither of them remember after the fight. They would only remember the fight itself. And more than anything, I saw people who thought so highly of themselves simply because they put people around them down and used them as a stepping stool. Now, my view of the world has of course changed since then, but the idea still remains. God sees the world. He sees all of our terrible and evil deeds, and he still loves us. Even now, I want the most for people. I now look at those people who throw their lives away, and I still see potential. I see people stepping on others so they can feel like something, and I see an inferiority complex that person is just trying to find a way for self-worth, to feel like they mean something to people. I try to see past their flaws so I can see their strength, to know what they're truly capable of if they put themselves to good use. But despite all that, I still can't fathom the kind of love God has. We hear all the terrible things going on in the Middle East, the beheadings, the mass murder, the propaganda, and most of what we perceive is monsters. We try to take the idea that there's a human behind those people away. We try to put them on a space far below us so that it's easy to unify in being against them. But the reality of it is, all these terrorist groups are people too, and I think that's what scares us more than anything. We're Christians. We don't fear death. We embrace it. We look forward to it because it means we'll finally be coming to a close. The final piece of a puzzle will be completed for us. What we fear in these people is the idea that we too are capable of these things. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Everybody, not just those groups in the Middle East. But God sees past all of that. He understands that those people too have potential. He loves them despite the wicked and terrible things that they're doing over there, and that's what I'm so confounded by. We crucified the Son He sent to us. He sent to save us, and yet He still loves us. There is no love like His love, but how could there be? He is love. If you take anything out of this today, know how important love really is. Know that our perception of love is extremely important. How are we supposed to show love if we don't understand how to display it? So I encourage everyone to think about how they show love in their daily life, and think about how much God loved us to have sent His Son as He did. Think about all the implications and how truly wonderful it is. Thank you.